Hello, friends.
That wasn't haunting at all.
No, not at all. Welcome to Photo Blab, the Square Crop Edition. Steve is here. Brenda, Mike Ozinski, and Mike McKenna are here. Flavio is here. Leroy is here. Brenda, I think I said Brenda already, but just in case I didn't. Welcome, everybody. And of course, I'm here, and Mark is here. Mark, how you doing, bud?
Can't complain.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's actually nice weather, sun shining, still warm. The snow's not here yet, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the snow. That'll be coming soon.
yeah,
Sooner than we
unfortunately,
would like,
yeah, sooner than
probably.
would like for sure.
Right,
It
exactly.
doesn't seem like summer's been here that long, and the days are getting shorter already.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I didn't realize my microphone was sticking into the frame there. Let me just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, as that makes all kinds of noise, I'm sure that sounded amazing. Um, quick update, if you're not aware, I think most of you are, but hello, Jason Norton. Hello from Detroit. Mike says, is Wisconsin Rapids still there? I mean, it
Yeah,
is. Yeah, there's a lot less trees here, Mike, but it's
yeah.
here.
Bits and pieces are still there.
Yeah, so real quick background. If you're not aware, tree fell on our house. Trees fell on houses all over town. Big storm. This was, I don't know, like a month ago, 3 weeks ago now. And internet was out and stuff was just out. So that's why I wasn't making videos. That's why we weren't live streaming, whatever. But we're back for Photo Blab. I do have some super important news about Photo Blab that we are going to be sharing probably halfway through the show. We'll try to hit it when as many people as possible are here to make sure everybody gets the news. But we do have some important news to share with you guys about the show. So we'll do that a little bit later when we know more people have joined, and we'll get the news. And Mark, any updates that you want to share with the gang since we've been gone?
Yeah, we've been gone for a bit. A couple of weeks ago, I got my first roll of film developed that I haven't done. I haven't shot film in ages, so I finally got a roll through, and some of the pictures were a couple of years old, and then just some new ones when I finished using the film, and I was quite happy with how everything turned out. It was old, expired film, so I wasn't really sure what to expect, how well it
Mm-hmm.
would turn out, but it turned out decent. There were a couple of the frames where they were a little bit off, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm assuming that's because of the old film, but generally, quite pleased. The colors all look nice and rich and everything. So it was a fun little experiment to do. And then also a couple of weeks ago, actually at the same time, me and the wife, we went up north, up to Owen Sound, and we're doing some exploring and took some shots of some waterfalls up there and a few other things. So it's been a fun month.
Awesome. That's great.
Hmm.
I had a ton of fun at ClickCon in Chicago. That was amazing. I taught there. I actually taught 4 different classes. ClickCon, it's the first photography expo conference in Chicago ever, I guess, which is pretty amazing. And very cool thing about that was that Steve was also there. So me and
Mr.
Kim,
Steve Land.
yeah, me and
Yeah,
Kim
nice.
got to meet Steve and Melissa, which was really wonderful. The only thing that would have made it better if Maya was able to be there, but she
Yeah,
was
yeah,
able to be
yeah.
there. So maybe next year uh, we'll get to meet Maya too. But I actually did get to FaceTime with Maya, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I got to say hi to Maya and chat with her a little bit. So yeah, we did. We had a blast. It was pretty awesome. All right, so the challenge for the show was square crop. And some people love square crop, some people hate square crop, some people find it challenging, and it can be challenging compositionally because it is a symmetrical frame. And one of the issues that you can run into with symmetrical frames is symmetrical compositions that lack the kind of dynamic energy that you need to keep an eye moving through the shot. So I'm excited to see your photos, and I actually did the assignment. Even though a tree fell on my house, I did the assignment. So yay for me, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll start with my photo. We'll take a look at yours, Mark, and then we'll look at everybody else's photos. So
Sounds good.
this is my shot right here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to say this too. Share with us your updates since it's been a while. Tell us what you guys have been up to in the chat as well, because we want to know what's going on in your lives, what you've been shooting, what kind of fun you've been having. Put that in the chat. Thank you, Sandy. Your comment just reminded me of that because she said, I got some 600 film from my old Polaroid. That's awesome. That is awesome. It looks kind of dark and crappy. It took like 20 minutes to process. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. So you must have gotten some of the Impossible Project Polaroid film. And I'm surprised that they haven't changed their formulation because the Impossible Project bought the last plant that made Polaroid film in the world when it was shutting down. The plant and all the equipment, but what they lacked was access to the patents and the chemistry and the understanding of what, how to make the film. So they had to basically reverse engineer it. But here's the interesting thing. Within the last 5 years, the Impossible Project bought Polaroid. So if Polaroid still maintains the patents, then they should have the patents and they should be able to make the film the way it used to be made. But I don't know about that. So at any rate, yeah, the stuff is not nearly as good as the 600 film from Polaroid used to actually be. What's the photo link? Mike, the photo link is shp.photo/share. Let me pop that in the chat. That was my typing talk.
I tried to share, but it wouldn't let me for
It
whatever
wouldn't.
reason.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, it's little Steve's birthday today, so everybody should say happy birthday to little Steven. Happy birthday, Steven!
I'd sing, but then
Yeah.
we'd break everything.
Yeah, we'd break the internet if we sang.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my photo right here, and I'll give you a little bit of background behind the photo and why I shot it the way I shot it. This crop is a variation. This isn't the actual final form, but I also felt it would work as a square crop for like a profile picture or something like that, even though I'm not going to make it my profile picture. So this is Dream, which is a character out of Neil Gaiman's Sandman comic book graphic novel. And this photo is actually part of a full series of 7 that we did because the Sandman comic book has the main family is called the Endless. And it is Dream, Desire, Despair, Destruction, Death, Delirium, and Destiny. And this is one of the shots. So let me show you. I want to show you real quick because I'm super, super proud of this. So this is the uncropped version of that photo, but this is like the final form that I'm about to show you guys here. This septic, I'm calling it, of all 7 of them together. And I know it's going to be kind of small on your screen because it's 7 photos. And I have to do some... I'm still not 100% satisfied with the way I've got the photos edged in this composite together, but this is the basic idea, the final form of what it's going to be, with Dream in the middle because he's like the patriarch of the family, so to speak. He's the principal character in the book, and then the rest of the characters off to each side. And these are the 7 characters as represented by Cecilia and myself and her husband for Destruction over there on the far right. And a lot of paint, as Mike mentioned in the comments right there. So that's what I've been working on lately as far as photos go. And this is my square crop on that. So yeah, that's mine. Let's bring Mark's up here. And Mark, you can share a little bit about yours. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, don't really have much to share. Admittedly, this is almost a bit of a cop-out like this. I did take this in the time period, but I honestly don't remember where I took it or anything like that. It's just kind of like I was going through my catalog, like, oh, this just happens to be here, and it is, it's suited for a square crop. But one thing I do find is when you are doing like macro close-up things like this, they do tend to work well generally as square crops, just because usually you're kind of tight in on details and you really want it to be right in your face, so that there's usually you don't typically have your normal leading lines and stuff like that with close up photography. So I do find that they do tend to work well as a square crop. As for the photo details, it was shot at ISO 1600 at 70 millimeter at f4 and 1/50th of a second. So that's the details on it. And considering the higher ISO, I think it turned out pretty good.
Oh, I would agree. I would agree. The colors are
Yeah.
nice and vibrant. I really like how the red contrasts against the green. The details are really beautiful in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree with you. All right. So let's flip over and take a look at what we've got in here. So the first photo is Brenda's. And Brenda says of this, let me find her details. I think I lost your details, Brenda. I'm sorry. I'm almost positive you posted them before, but I accidentally shut down. I didn't accidentally. I had to shut down my computer because it was acting stupid earlier. And when I do that, I lose the details. So if you want to share your details for us again, Brenda. Yeah, it's my fault, not your fault, Brenda. It's totally my fault. But if you wouldn't mind sharing your details again, that would be great. And Mark, I'll let you start while she's sharing her details here.
Okay, it's definitely an interesting photo. It's one of these similar to what I said, where you're dealing with a close up subject like this, and it's usually well suited for a square crop, just because you want your attention to be on the main subject, which is a dragonfly. Whereas if you had kept this in the standard format, then you'd have lots of space either at the top or the front or left or bottom, whatever the case is. That would be more distracting because there's just stuff there to take your eye away from your main subject. So I think it works well here. It does look like it's been heavily cropped, that being said, because maybe it's just the low resolution that was uploaded, but it does look a little pixelated. So that's why I'm assuming it's been heavily cropped. But other than that, it's a great capture to catch this guy, and definitely think it's well suited for a square crop.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it also works well for the same reasons that you described. And one of the things to think about is that what the square crop can help you do is eliminate the distractions, like Mark was talking about. When you have it wider or taller, and there's all of this excess stuff in the frame that's not your subject, if it's not contributing, a square crop is an option to eliminate those distractions. So Brenda just shared her information, reshared it. Thank you, Brenda. She says, I captured this photo as the dragonfly paused briefly on the brick curb of the herb garden. The D3500 was the camera, 70 to 300 millimeter kit lens, f11, 1/100th of a second, and ISO 100, zoomed out to 110 millimeters. So I do like the crop and the capture. I think that works pretty well. Now, I know the dragonfly was just in and out, and you had no control over where the dragonfly landed. The thing that is hard for me is there's so little contrast between the dragonfly and the curb. It's a little bit hard to actually pick it out. Like, I can see it, I know it's there, and I know that's the subject because of your crop and because your composition focuses the attention there. And that's the positive side. Because even when you're looking at a square frame, you can still use those thirds as guidelines for compositional positioning. And the fact that you have the dragonfly off to the right a little bit, and that the dragonfly angles up in this direction, which is at a different angle from the curb lines and the brick lines, all of those different line elements help create a flow and a bit of energy into this frame. And then the wing implied movement also adds a little bit of energy as well. So compositionally, I think you did really nice under the circumstances that you were able to shoot in, which is dragonfly drops down for a second, oh my gosh, I gotta get a shot, and then the dragonfly's gone. You thought of the thirds and you framed it up like that, and I think that works out really nicely. In a perfect world, the dragonfly would sit there and let you take 15 shots of it until you got the perfect angle. But obviously that's not gonna happen, right? Not unless you like pin the dragonfly down, which we don't want to do because that would be mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, very nice job, Brenda. I appreciate the effort that you put into this. All right, so this is little Steven right here. And since today is his birthday, once again, real quick, happy birthday, Steven. 7 years old today, which is awesome. And this is from Steve, Papa Steve. Quick image of little Steve on his birthday party. This is a square crop shot in camera. So Steve changed the camera frame, which is a nice thing about digital cameras too, is like you can literally crop these in camera by changing the aspect ratio in your menu system. Almost, I think just about every modern digital camera offers that option in there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is shot on the Z6 with the 24-70. Steve, what happened? You took the 200 millimeter off. just giving you a hard time, of course. Shot with the 24-70 f4 at 1/125th of a second with an aperture of f4 at 70 millimeters, and it was also done black and white in camera. He says kind of a nice candid shot of him watching TV before people arrived. Shot August 10th, so this is actually shot a bit early, but it was on his birthday party. And then little Steve said he liked the black and white, so that was his idea.
Okay.
And I dig it. Yeah, Steve says too close with the 200 millimeter f2. I can imagine you'd probably had to be like outside one of the windows like a paparazzo to get that shot with the 200. I think it's a beautiful shot. Mark, you go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful shot. The nice crisp details. I like the reflections in the eyes. I know sometimes I comment about liking to see both eyes in focus, but in this case, because he's at such an angle, I think it works great like this with just having the eye closest to you in focus and the other eye falling out like that. I really like the processing. It's the black and white does work well with this, and I also do like the square crop with this. I think the only thing that's kind of not really throwing me off, because I know what it is and everyone knows what it is, but just seems a little odd just having a fist straight there against the face. And I realized it was just a candid shot and nothing posed. So he's just kind of leaning on his face, and that's just what it was. But it's sort of the old age thing that people say all the time is it's sometimes we're just having an appendage or whatever just coming out of nowhere. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But that being said, like I said, it's neither here nor there. We know that it's his, and it was a candid shot, so it works good. I don't really have an issue with it. If it was a posed shot, then it would be a different story.
Yeah. I think it's a really wonderful candid as well. I don't mind the fist because, like you say, I get what's happening, and to me, that perfectly tells the story of like watching TV, because I can literally remember me sitting in basically that exact same sort of position watching TV myself when I was a kid, and I think it tells that story just so perfectly that I don't mind that at all. The fist being there. What I do notice, and somebody else mentioned it, Mike said, the blanket is a tiny bit distracting. These are perfect world situations where you don't always get them. He was watching TV and you just wanted to take the shot. And so you take it because the blanket's there, right? So
much like the fist, same sort of thing. It's
right. And it's always worth mentioning this. Like, we can talk about perfect world scenarios where you're shooting in controlled conditions where you can take the time and you want to take the time to, sort of fuss and fit and inspect and make sure you nail all the details. And then there's sort of candid shooting, which is you get and you make the best of what you're given. So it's always good to remember the difference between those two, because when you're dealing with more candid situations, there are always elements like that are going to be cropping up, so to speak, in photos that you shoot that way. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that's worth pointing out so that you can apply that to a situation where you are in more control.
Yeah, Candace completely different style than posed pictures. So
exactly.
Stuff like that is to be expected.
Yeah. Mike says, Ward, is the beaver watching TV? That's pretty much perfect. And Steve says he's a bouncy guy. I was surprised I got him still. One shot is all I got there. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's a beautifully captured moment.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. Vicky says the freckles are darling. Brian said, I think the fist and the material below his chin adds other interest that uh, rather than just a plain profile. Yeah, that's a fair point too, Brian. I
Mm-hmm.
see what you're saying because
Yeah.
the blanket is really, when you think about, part of the story. Watching TV, curled up, super comfy. You know,
Especially if it's his blanket too.
right?
Like years down the road, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that blanket. It was
Yeah.
my favorite blanket.
I used to have a blankie. I don't know if I still have that blankie from when I was a kid or not.
Kim probably has it stashed away somewhere.
I don't know if we do. I don't know. Let's see. Steve says perfect time. Melissa just got home with dinner after his birthday dinner. He wants to watch a movie. Awesome. He could see it live. Yeah,
Mhm.
no problem. Happy birthday, Steve.
Yeah,
Steven, thank you so much, guys, for
yeah.
joining. You guys have a great night. All right, so let's move on to the next photo here then. This is, let me find the information. This is Mike's. This is wooden window. This was at ISO 200 with a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second, f4, 45 millimeters, and this was shot with the EM1 Mark II and the 40 to 150 millimeter f2.8 Olympus lens. So this is, unless I'm wrong, this is Mike Kaczynski's photo. And Mark, you can go ahead on this one and
Yeah,
start.
this was really interesting. I really like this. Like, I like the blue colors. I was thinking at first that maybe the processing had been overdone on it, but then looking closer, I think that probably is the actual colors are pretty darn close to the colors that were actually being presented in this window. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then I like the inside, like the reflections or the reflections or seeing through the window, whatever the case is, because it's older glass and kind of warped, for lack of a better term. It just gives a real artistic feel to it, and it just adds so much to it. It's just for something so simple, there's just so much to look at, and it's a really interesting photo. And the fact that it's a square window, the square crop presents it just perfectly. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a well executed shot.
Yeah, like texturally, this is really amazing. I love the depth that it has because of all of that texture, and then because it is a frame without a frame, it has an additional depth because you have the outer frame, you have the inner frame, and then you have the interior. So it almost feels like I'm being sucked in. And then the old wavy nature of the glass, combined with the reflection and what you can see in the interior, creates this beautiful abstraction, and makes this a really fun, really interesting, and really engaging photo to look at. Like, I really like what you shot here, Mike. I think this
Hmm.
is a really well done photo. Um, yeah, I wouldn't do anything different here. I think it's fantastic. Like, I just keep looking at it and roaming around it. Very nicely done.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only thing that I'm this is a really real minor thing would be like, of the six window panes, the top left one, it's kind of got that one little green thing that's kind of hanging down. It to me, like I said, it's really minor. You could leave it or you could not leave it, but it might be interesting just to kind of crop that out and see if it makes a difference, being less distracting or not. It's hard to say whether or not it looks like it belongs there or not. It's a tough call with that. What do you think, Spiros?
So are you talking in the actual window pane, the
Yeah,
top left one, that
yeah,
green
yeah.
dangly bit?
It almost looks like a cocoon or something like that.
Yeah, you could probably hit that with like a healing brush or something like that. I didn't. I definitely noticed it. I didn't find it too distracting because I just saw it as sort of like the whole abstraction of the entire window scene. Um, I'd have to see it without to see, but I see your point in it, and I can see how to other people it would be a thing that your eye would latch onto and sort of fixate on. So it might be worth it if you find your eye going to that mic over much to hit that with a clone stamp healing brush or something and
Yeah.
clean it out of there.
But that being said, it's not really that distracting. It's just, but when I do look around, I do keep going back to that one little spot just because it just seems, I guess, out of place on the yellowish background that's
Hmm.
there. I guess I'm not sure.
Yeah, and the way I read it is what Mike said. That's the reflection of the tree, so it's a leaf reflecting off the window
Right,
like
right.
the other leaves you see or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like. I mean, overall, it's a great shot. I think
No,
you did really
absolutely.
nice.
No, it's a
And
beautiful shot for sure.
yeah, and Mike says thank you. My head is 3 times bigger now.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for, right? All right, let's go on to. I believe this is Flavio's photo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see here. Looking for the info. Um, Yep. Okay. So this is Flavio's. This is taken with a 1/200th of a second shutter speed and f5.6 ISO, and 1/200th shutter. Bleh, sorry. Obviously rusty here. 1/2000th of a second. Aperture of f5.6, ISO of 220, and the ISO is in auto, it looks like. So Flavio says this photo was taken early morning with light changing very often, so the ISO was on auto to compensate for the changing light. And it was in manual mode otherwise, so he was controlling aperture and shutter speed. He said, I shot this much wider. It was taken at 500 millimeters with the D500, so he used 5.6 to make sure the foreground was sharp and have a little bit of blur in those background flamingos. And he says it worked better as a crop to bring it closer and cut off the side flamingos because they were too blurred out to contribute to the photo. And then he says, I was trying to finish by saying that the square crop was important because if you turn the photo upside down, it's another photo. So you kind of got a 2-in-1 going on here.
Mm. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Yep. All right. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think this is another marvelous shot. The fact that the square crop actually worked so well to actually not have any partial birds on either of the edges is great in itself, and you have a good amount of the room at the top and bottom where nothing is like super duper tight either. So it was you got lucky with these birds in the clump like that to not have any other distractions. So kudos on that. It's definitely a well executed shot. Looks like there's lots of details there on the birds that you have intentionally in focus. So that's great, and I love the reflection and everything. I think the only thing I would probably spend a little bit of time doing is in the lower half of the picture in the water. Like I don't think it's sensor dust, but it looks like sensor dust. I think it's just the it's probably shallow water, so you're seeing stuff underneath it. But I'd be tempted to actually go through in all those spots, just at least on the very bottom, kind of hit them with the spot healing brushes to make it a little bit more evenly blue, for lack of a better term. I do find I keep seeing those spots and thinking that they're sensor dust, even though, like I said, I don't think it is, but I think I would clean that up anyways, at least if it was my photo. But other than that, it's a great photo. I love it.
Yeah, I love the colors. I love the composition. Mark, what you said is so true. Like the fact that you're able to do this a square crop and not have any like sort of extra bird parts in frame is really fortuitous. Like you've got the perfect clumping of birds here, your perfect framing for that. Like everything works out really well, and I think that's really splendid. I agree. I think the spots are real too on the bottom. They're bits of whatever reflecting in the water. But I think it would be worth. I agree with Mark. I think it'd be worth cleaning those up because they do end up distracting a little bit. I love the symmetry of this. This is where that square crop and that symmetry works really beautifully because, like he said, you could flip this over and it's an entirely different and new picture.
Mm-hmm.
And this symmetry works because there's so much going on in this frame. Right? Like what can be detrimental is if you have a simple symmetry that can be overly simplistic to the point that it doesn't engage you because your brain sort of looks at it, deals with it, and it's like, okay, I see it, but not super interested here. But this, like the legs and all of the different lines, and then the shapes and the birds with their heads in different position, it's like it looks like a simple photograph, but then at the same time, it's like actually really chaotic. And then you add in the fact that the symmetry comes from a reflection, And there's another layer to that because you've got like legs connecting to legs, making extra long lines. And then your brain gets confused a little bit more and engages in even deeper because it's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And it's like, wow, fireworks are going off in my brain right now. So this is a really great shot. I really, really like this shot. I think my biggest thing is I kind of wish that the birds that you have in the background that are slightly out, I actually wish that they were in. Because I find as my eye keeps wandering through the shot and up and down between the reflection and following the legs and looking at all the bird heads, I keep running into those out of focus birds a little bit more towards the back and wishing that they were they don't even necessarily have to be all the way in, but a little bit more in focus so that they weren't starting to kind of get that haloing you get when something's falling out of focus and it's kind of in that in between stage. It's just enough to make my brain kind of like fuss over that a little bit and feel a little bit of frustration over my inability to kind of see the detail I want to see there. But yeah, I think it's a really fantastic shot. I really like what you did here, Flavio. I think it's excellent. Yeah, Cyberduck says they're out of focus because they're shy.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so it is 6:30. I'm not sure how late the show is actually going to go tonight because we're getting a few other submissions. But I think now is probably as good a time as any to share the news about the show, which is that we're back basically for one night only. We're going to be putting Photolab on indefinite hiatus, principally because I'm trying to figure stuff out. Trying to figure out like business stuff, YouTube stuff, all of that is tied together for me. And I have to make this work in a way that makes sense. And right now, I need to be able to step back from this so that I can focus on making this entire endeavor sustainable for me to continue. Because if I can't do that, then I have to consider, possibly stepping away from all of this entirely. So we both feel bad having to do so because the show is great and you guys are amazing and we love hanging out with you. But I need to be able to put my time and effort into figuring out how to make this work. And when I say that, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, of course, or guilt anybody. It's just the reality of doing this. You have to figure out how to make it financially viable as well as like time investment viable and all of those other things. So with that change, one of the other things that's going to be happening is instead of me doing the edit stream on Fridays, that's going to move to this time on Mondays. So I'll still be streaming on Monday nights, but it's going to be the edit stream. There's going to be no more Photoblab, and part of what that's going to do is give me all of Friday to work on other stuff. And try to keep going on that. And I'm also dropping down to one live stream, or I'm sorry, not live stream, but one video per week. You guys know I had been publishing 2 per week for a while there, and that was a bit of an experiment. So little bit of a change in the schedule and the streaming, and hopefully I can get all of this to work the way I need it to so that we can keep doing all of this fun stuff together. So yeah, that's the news. Minisla, just getting the hang of catching the live streams. I apologize. So yeah, just Mondays the same time, Fridays no more for now at least. And we're not ruling out that Photoblab will never ever come back or anything like that. But for right now at least, it's going on indefinite hiatus. And like I said, you guys, I'm moving the Friday stream to here so that if you guys still want to hang out, we can still hang out and chat. We just won't share photos. You'll just give me a hard time for pretending to edit and not actually doing any editing.
Hey, but you're good at that, though.
Yeah, I'm real good at that part. So, yeah, and then like I say, Fridays will be like a dedicated sort of quote unquote business day for me, so I can try to work on some of the back end stuff that I need to work on to get all of this humming in the speed that I want it to hum in, so to speak. All right. So,
what about your Wednesday thing?
Wednesday thing for right now is going to continue, but that's have to see how that goes and what happens with that as well.
Yeah, because I guess technically that's not your show anyways, is it? You're just sort of a
right. I'm like the co-host that softballs the actual host.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, Minisla, you're making me feel bad. I knew this was going to be hard because I didn't want to, I don't want to do this. And I know you guys don't want to do this.
You got to do what's best for you. It's as simple as
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, it's a simple fact. Like, got to do what's best. But like I say, you guys can still hang out, and of course, Mark, you're welcome to hop on and hang out anytime on a Monday stream.
It's
But
not going to happen ever.
right, exactly. But the gist of it is, we had to cut down a stream, and Photo Blab's the one that's going to cut down because that one is taking so much time, and I need that time back right now.
Yep.
All right, so back to the photos because that's really what we're here for. We took a look at yours earlier, Mark. So now let's take a look at this photo right here, and I need to find out. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is Brian's, but I need to find the info to make sure. Let's see. Euretion. Here we go. Yep, I was right. Brian. Okay, so Brian Leonard's. This is from a quick shoot where I was able to talk my wife into modeling for me. That's excellent because wives are not always necessarily too hype on the idea of modeling.
Yeah.
So bravo to you for getting your wife to model.
Yeah, my wife doesn't mind her picture being taken if like we're out and doing some stuff, but actually modeling for me is a different story.
Right. Yeah, my wife, she doesn't mind the occasional sort of snapshot or selfie, but she doesn't like having her picture taken either.
I can't blame her, so I don't like having my picture taken.
Right.
That's why I'm behind the camera.
Right. All right, so let me find the info again. Not the easiest thing to do, he says. This was shot at 1/200th of a second, f5.6 and ISO 100 with a 50mm prime, and then the flash was slightly off to camera left. And this is a really beautiful photo. I'll let you go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. It's a well presented photo. Your wife is a great subject. She's a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to zoom in here. I got it on my screen here.
Okay.
It looks like it's in focus from what I can see. Looks like you nailed the focus on the eyes and everything. Admittedly, I'm not a fan of the, I guess, lack of a better term, the fake blur that's around her. That's just a preference thing. That's just my take on it. I prefer a more natural looking blur. Like if you're using a shallow depth of field and the background's blurred out, then I've got no problem with that. But just the way this is, so not my thing. I think I'd be tempted to warm up the photo a little bit too, because if you look at the whites of her eyes, they are a little bit blue, but you may have been going for more of a bluish look like that. And if that's the case, that's fine. But again, that's a matter of preference. But generally, it looks like it's well executed. I like your lighting; it works well. The focus is good. It's just, for me, it's just the processing. It's just not my thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm on the flip side of that. I don't mind the softness to it. I think the only thing that's catching me a hair is that on the right hand side, on the camera right side of her face, it's creeping a little bit too close to her eye for me. I like the dreamy look. I like what you were trying to do with it, Brian, and I like your overall application of it. I just think just right here, literally just right here by her camera right eye, it's just a little bit too close to the eye, and it's starting to pull the eye out of focus, and that's throwing me off a little bit. I love your framing on this. So the framing looks pretty simple, right? Because she's basically center frame, and then you have a square crop around her. But part of what I really love about this is we as humans naturally have a bit of a triangular shape to us. And then with the way she's draping the blanket around her, she's created an even more triangular shape. And that is a beautiful contrast. So her shape of the triangle inside the square crop creates a really beautiful dynamic interest to me. I love her direct gaze to the camera. Like Mark said, beautiful woman. And I love what looks like just a bit of a smirk that she's got going
Yeah,
on
yeah,
there,
yeah, exactly.
which is it seems to me that she is either tolerating you or is enjoying herself secretly, but doesn't want you to know that she wants her picture taken.
I
But
think it's
either
the second
way,
one.
either way, I love just like it's almost like a Mona Lisa ish kind of like what's she thinking? I don't know, but I want to know what's going on inside her
Yeah,
head.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I also actually quite like the tonality of it. I know I'm not sure if you did it this way. Tolerating, Brian says. I'm not sure if you were going for this look on purpose or not, but this is one where it looks a bit like the Instagram, the orange and the teal. Although her skin isn't overly orange, which I appreciate because I can't stand the overly orange, like super super orange skin look that you get with the blue and teal or with the orange and teal look that's done up on Instagram. And I like the coolness of this. It matches the blanket really well. I think it's really beautifully done shot, and bravo to you for shooting it, Brian, and bravo to your wife for
Yeah, yeah.
for tolerating you and
Tolerating
and
you.
and getting this shot. Like it's really fantastic, and I really like it. The only thing, like I said, I'd pull that blur back just a hair on the camera right eye. Cyberdoc says never shoot your in-laws. You'll be the first suspect. All right. So let's move on to the next shot. This is Vicky's. Real quick, I want to acknowledge your guys, your outpouring of support. And I just want to say real quick that we both appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys being here, and appreciate you guys watching the videos and everything else. So thank you very much for that. That means a lot. That really means a lot. Okay, this is Vicky's photo. Inspiration equals Daisy. And she says, I wanted to play with my Magilite more. Every time I see that, I just think it looks like Maglite. So I'm thinking she's back there waving around like a club of a flashlight. But it's a Magilite. Magalite?
Something like that.
Something like that. One of those light wands that you can use to create patterns and shapes and stuff behind. So this was shot with the Canon 70D with the Tamron 17 to 50 millimeter f2.8 lens. I love that lens, by the way. That lens is amazing. I shot with that lens constantly when I shot Canon. And this was taken at 11:03 p.m. on a weeknight. This was shot in bulb mode for 26 seconds. It was f7.1 and ISO 125. Now, real quick question, Vicky, did you light the model up with flash as well, or is that the ambient slash whatever constant light source you had lighting her up in addition to using the wand in the background? All right, so with that question asked, Mark, I'll let you start.
Yep, just 1 second here. I'm waiting for it to open.
Oh, I see it. There's more notes from Vicky here. So I waved the wand behind her, and the assistant set off the flash at the end of the exposure. I can read real good.
Yeah, okay.
And then she says, I toned down the highlights in the grass. Too much of her shadow was showing otherwise. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lovely shot. I was going to say, you said it was a 30-second or 20-second exposure, whichever one it was. Either way, that's a difficult pose to hold that long, and you can see the artifacts of it, but it doesn't hurt this picture at all, just because it's so kind of funky and psychedelic. I think it adds to it myself, actually, in this particular case. I love also the fact that this magic wand, or whatever you want to call the thing, that makes a pattern here. It's round, but it's an imperfection of round, and I also think that helps add to it, because it's just kind of adds some interest to it. It's, again, more kind of psychedelic look and what have you. I think this works well as a square crop, because you kind of have this roundish background, so you basically have like a circle within a square. So
Yep.
it works symmetrically in that respect. I imagine it probably took you quite a few goes to get this picture, but I think it was well worth the effort, and I think you did a great job on this one. The pose is fun. Well, the whole shot's fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a winner chicken dinner for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So Vicky says we were going for an Indian look. They were out playing for a long time. Absolutely, that looks so super fun.
Hmm.
And what, Vicky, was this just this past week? Because I had wanted to go out while they were shooting and just wasn't able to because I had some other stuff going on that I had to take care of and deal with. But this is a super fun shot. I love it. I agree with what you said, Mark. The way just like Brian had his wife with her triangular shape inside the frame. Now we have this sort of circular shape inside the frame. So the contrast of the shapes really helps work with the square framing and the square crop because you have your natural shape and then you have your interior shapes. This is like straight up for me. This is like straight out of Austin Powers. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to jump in there. I want to throw some Pink Floyd on and go eat some mushrooms, and you know what kind I'm talking about, and stare at this photo for the next 12 hours. Right? Turn on, tune in, drop out,
Yeah.
Cyberdoc said, right? And what's particularly effective here is so like you said, Mark, it's hard to keep a pose like that for 26 seconds. So she's not perfectly still, but because Vicky lit her with a flash, and because they're shooting in such a low light situation, she is sharp because that instantaneous moment of flash froze her for that time
Hmm.
where the flash existed, the duration of, we'll say the flash was around for 1/5000th of a second, right? So the entire rest of the 26 seconds and for 25 and 4,999 thousandth of a second that she was, standing there trying to hold still, the slight motion didn't matter because the flash exposure caught and showed her sharp and framed. Now, as I said, you can see a couple of artifacts of it, and these aren't bad artifacts. But if you look at her arm here, you can see on the left side there's a black gap where there's no light because the flash actually filled that in, or I'd have to reason it out backwards. Anyway, the light is missing there, and then there's light from the wand that's sort of covering her arm because she was moving a little bit. To me, that adds to the trippy nature of the shot, and it makes me feel like it's almost like a portal to the 60s or 70s, which, just it sucks you in. And the pattern that you created with your Magilite helps too because it is darker on the outside of the frame by nature of the hearts and the alternating light and dark color of the hearts. And then you have the bands of color. And as you move in, it gets brighter until you get to that sort of hot magenta towards the middle of the frame. So that draws your attention inward. And then she is posing right in front of that. So you've got her and her body and your attention going kind of towards her. It almost feels like she's going to be sucked into there. And I'm going to get sucked in with her. So I really enjoy this. I think it's really cool. I'd say the only thing that I would suggest is gelling your flash, because for me what's a little bit jarring is you have this super rich warm light behind her, and then the flash I'm guessing was bare, and as a bare flash it's making her look very cool
Mm.
against that background, against that backdrop of warmth. And I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be like full on red or whatever, but something that brings her tonality as far as like coloring more in line with the warmth of the background. I don't necessarily, so no, Vicky just said I was wondering what to do about the harsh light on the models. And I would say this, I don't think the harshness of the light is necessarily a bad thing. And the hardness of that light is actually going to work in your favor a little bit here because if you were using a softer source, that light's going to be bigger, which means that light is going to be spilling around the rest of the scene, bringing parts of the scene up and making them brighter than you want. So I think your choice of harder light is correct, but I think you should have used or could use a gel to bring the coloring of the light more closer to the coloring of your wand. So something in the warmer range, not orange, maybe a light reddish hue to just bring her and connect her more with that. That's what I'm thinking. All right, so I would definitely bring my gels next time. Good idea. Good
Yeah.
idea. All right.
Yeah, I
Whoops.
guess a quick point too
Yes.
is when if you are experimenting doing something like this, is that when you trigger the flash, it's one of those things you want to make sure you trigger at the end of the exposure, not the
Second
beginning of the
curtain.
exposure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that as well. All right, so this now is many. Here we go. This is an elk photo shot at Rocky Man National Park. I believe this is, I'm guessing this is Mike McKenna's photo. I'm not sure. Nikon D850, 600 millimeter Sigma. Yep, it is Mike McKenna's. F6.3 and 1/1000th of a second. All right, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, this is cool. I like this. I always admire people who have these big, long lenses and can capture the wildlife like this because my longest lens is 200 millimeters. So I always get jealous when I see stuff like this. So it's a beautiful shot. It's well composed. It's the guy is a little bit center in the frame, but I think in this case it works because you have enough space in front of him that it doesn't look awkward. So I think it works quite well like that. I do like how you can actually see around his back legs here the flies flying around. So it just sort of adds a little bit of it's a minor thing, but it does add a little bit of interest there. If you want to, you could edit them out, but I think just because it's a wildlife photo, I think it actually works in here. And I do like the slope of the lay of the land as well too. How it's kind of going up because it makes it look like this guy's just big and majestic and just climbing up to the top of the hill to just show off his bigness, for lack of a better term.
Right.
But yeah, well, I think it's a well executed photo, nice and sharp, well composed, and I think it works well as a square crop too.
Yeah, I think it works well as a square crop as well. I want to point out just how important that slope is, right? Because that slope, again, with the shapes and adding the dynamic energy that you need to the frame, right? If this were a flat plane that this elk were on, and this were the exact same shot, except that it were flat, I think it would have far less impact.
Less dramatic.
Yeah, it would be less dramatic. It would still be a nice photo,
Hmm.
but it would lack the impact and the majestic feeling we're getting. It's a triangle, and we associate triangles with strength. And the elk itself has a bit of a triangle shape between the front legs leading up to the head, and then the horns create another reverse triangular shape going down. The elk is ascending up the slope that we see, so it feels triumphant because you are working up and climbing up rather than just sort of standing there or walking across a flat plane. All of those things I think work in favor of the shot and help add that majestic feeling that a couple of you commented on, including yourself, Mark. So I think all of that works really well. I could handle like a tiny bit more room on the right side of the frame because I feel the scope of this beast, this animal, needs a bit more room to go. And so I think for me, because you mentioned, Mark, that you're okay with it as it is, I
Yeah.
feel like I could handle it being shifted over a little bit. You don't want his butt too close to the left edge of the frame, but I would say like split the difference between where the butt is and where the edge of the frame is and kind of bring it halfway back. That for me, I think would be perfect framing because that'll give him more room to move up in this frame, and that's the only criticism that I would have of this. Otherwise, I think it's a really beautifully done shot. I mean, I love that you can this is a low resolution, cross the internet, blah blah blah, but I love that you can actually see like detail in the fuzz on the horns and, like you said, Mark, the flies. Like this is just really well done. It's a really great shot. Yeah, Brand says the slope anticipates movement upward. Mike says great point about the shapes in the slope. Yeah, absolutely. This is it's a really well done photo. All right, let's move on to the next. We've got another dragonfly here. Excellent. And Clayty, let me see. Okay, I know somebody put their information into the chat earlier. Is this your photo? I meant to copy that and then I lost it. I'm sorry. if this is your photo, we don't see any info on it right now. If you want to share your info, I'd appreciate it very much. Let's see, here we go. This is John Guest. This is not the shot, but I'm going to copy your information, John, from when we get to your photo. Yeah, Minisla, I agree with the elk. It would be nice to have details in the sky. Obviously, Mother Nature didn't give a crap that day. But that was something I was going to add, but then decided to leave it off because, it is what it is, and you can only do so much.
Yeah.
Although, brief side note, just because I haven't checked this out, I have no idea how well this will or will not work. But Luminar from Skylum, Luminar is a Lightroom alternative that many people really like. I've played with it a little bit, and I find it to be decent software, but because I edit on my iPad, Luminar isn't there, and so I don't use it. But in their next version, Luminar 4, they are talking about artificial intelligence sky replacement, where you just be like, replace that sky, and it's supposed to be magic.
Yeah, that never works out that well.
Well, that's just it, right? How much of it is hype and how much of it is actually going to work. So just a thing that you guys might want to check out if you're interested in that. So I'm not seeing anybody sharing any info on the Dragonfly. So we're going to skip by this one. And if it is your shot, please go ahead and share your information. We'll come back to it. And we will move on to the next shot. And this here is John's. So let me, I copied those. Now I got to paste those notes so that I can actually read them. Okay, this is John Guest's photo. This was shot with the Olympus EM10 Mark II. This was shot at ISO 100 at 106 millimeters at f3.5 and 1/125th of a second. All right, I'll let you go ahead, Mark.
I'm curious if flash was used too or not.
Yeah, I don't know. The way the background is falling off, it looks like it could be flash.
Yeah. That's why I'm thinking that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but not that it makes a difference. I'm just kind of curious more than anything. But it's definitely a lovely shot. I love the colors. I love the textures. I love even the lighting is beautiful, which is another reason I'm suspecting it. Maybe it's flash just because of it could be window light, but it's just like a real nice soft light that's sort of I think works really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that I might, if it was myself, that I might try doing is on the left side here. You've got that little orange the pod, the flower,
the bloom.
The bloom before it's actually bloomed.
Mm-hmm.
I might be tempted to try and chop that one out just because it's a little bit brighter and I do find it a little bit distracting, and B, the fact that it is kind of being cut off in the frame. Like the other one, I don't mind because it's not being cut off and it's not as bright, so it's not as distracting from the main subject of the flower. But I might be tempted to try and remove that orange one, though.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I like the composition. I do almost kind of wish it was a little bit less on the bottom and maybe a little bit more space at the top. But I do think the picture itself, because of the textures and because of the lighting, sort of helps mitigate that part of it out. But I do think a little bit more head space, for lack of a better term, at the top would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see a little bit more headspace. I don't find I don't need it. Just like we flip flopped on the elk, we're kind of flip flopped on this one too.
Yeah.
For me, I think the headspace is okay, but I think the reason for me the headspace is okay is because the motion from the flowers and the petals is pulling you downward, or at least it pulls me downward. Yeah, so it pulls me in, and the angularity of it, in addition to the petals and the flower shape itself, the stem and the other bits all take you sort of downward. So for me, it works as framed. Now, John did add that he didn't use flash. So this is beautifully executed because the way you framed and set your settings to capture this and taken that background light for whatever's back there and you've brought it down. I don't know if you brought it down in post or if you shot it like this, but it's really well done. And I really like that because the flower stands out really beautifully. And I do agree with what you said, Mark. I think that pod on the left, I wish it were either not cut off. I wish it were not cut off. I don't think I'd like it gone. I like that it's there, but I agree with you that little bit being cut off is just a little bit niggling on the brain there.
Yeah.
And I hope that wasn't a bad word to say. Is that a bad word to say? Niggling? I don't know if that comes from bad. Anyway, we're gonna just yeah. Anyway, so let's focus on the photo because this is an amazing photo, John. Anyway, I like the depth of field. Somebody said it's just the perfect amount of depth of field, and I absolutely agree. I think it's really beautifully done. Like my attention is just so caught up in the flower. I love the detail you captured. Like just look, you can see the folds and the texture. You can see the pollen. In your original shot, you could probably count pollen if you wanted to, which that's a bit of intense pixel peeping, but just a beautiful photo. Like really, I think that only thing is just that little tip of the bloom being cut off on the left is. It clearly doesn't ruin the shot, but I wish it was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The part of my brain that wants it complete doesn't like that it's gone. All right.
Andrew's claimed the dragonfly.
The dragonfly. Okay, excellent, Andrew. Thank you so much. So let's go back to the dragonfly. This was taken with the D810 and the 85 millimeter prime, and this is a very heavy crop. And I was as close as I could focus with autofocus and aperture priority. All right. Very nice. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. For being heavily cropped, the details have still held in there pretty good. So nice on that. I honestly think this is going to sound stupid, but I think what I like the most about this shot is the sun, the pattern of the wings on the leaf below the dragonfly, not even necessarily the dragonfly itself, but the pattern on those
shadow.
It's just interesting to look at, just because the wing on the dragonfly itself isn't quite in focus, but it is on the leaf, so you get to kind of look at the leaf and check out the patterns of it. And it's just kind of like a snowflake. It's just like there's just so much you can look at, and it's just so interesting and different. But other than that, it's a great shot. I love the detail that you have captured here. Like those eyes on this guy just look dead sharp. It's like, I don't think you get much better than that. And the stick leading right through here is great because it's kind of a bit of a leading line, and the fact that the dragonfly is also in line with the stick just kind of helps add to it. It just adds a little bit of a dimension to the whole thing. But yeah, a great capture. Again, this is a detail shot like this. I think again works well as a square crop because you don't have the distractions at the top, bottom, or sides because your focus is on the dragonfly.
So Brant asked if people are actually cropping the picture square or selecting square format to begin with, and it's been a mixture of both, which was within the parameters of the challenge. The only real criteria was that in the end you had to have a square crop composition. I shot mine 4:3 and then cropped it to 1:1. Steve earlier, he shot his square in camera, so it was totally up to you as to how you wanted to approach it, as long as the end result was a square.
Yeah.
I like this shot as well, just like Brenda's dragonfly. You've got something that's going to be there for a fleeting moment if you're lucky, and you got to get in there and get that shot. And I love what you pointed out, Mark. Like the detail of the shadows of the wings on the leaves below is really interesting and really captivating. But even more so is the eyes of that dragonfly. Like, I mean, obviously we were as close as we could get with this. But Man, it would be amazing if you could just like really get in there and like something like this where you could just see that detail, because I want to see that detail so bad, and you've captured it,
Hmm.
and it makes me want to climb in there and just see more of it. So that is really engaging, and I think really well done. The angle of the branch and the dragonfly along that. Again, these angles when you crop like this. Are really important, like we talked about earlier, because it helps give that energy. And another thing that helps give energy and keep your eye moving through this frame is all of the leaves and the way they layer together in the light and the shadow, providing context and important contrast here. With Brenda's, I had a bit more of a hard time seeing the dragonfly because it blended into the curb and the brick a little bit. Although this dragonfly actually has coloration that matches its background, there's enough contrast here that the dragonfly really stands out for me. And so I can't help but look at it and really, again, I just keep getting sucked into those eyes.
Hmm.
So I think it's really well done.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Nicely done. Oh, my brain just quit on me.
Andrew.
Nicely done, Andrew. Yeah. My brain's starting to melt. Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much. And real quick, I want to say thank you to everybody who has shared photos, not just tonight, but through all of the shows that we've done. We always appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts about your photos and give our critiques, and hopefully encourage you guys and inspire you to get out there and take some more photos and keep shooting and enjoy yourselves. So that's amazing. And let's see who this photo belongs to. All right. Podarge. Let me find. Here we go. This is Cyberdocs. Awesome. So this is a square crop of a lake early in the morning while shooting in the sunrise. This is shot at ISO 100 and f6.3 and 1/60th of a second. 22 millimeters, shot in manual on a tripod. All right, go for it, Mark.
Yeah, this is nice. I do like a nice landscape photo, especially when it has an awesome reflection like this.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like that. It, the it's a low resolution, so it's hard to see the details. But the looks like it's a golf course, perhaps. But either way, the grounds are nicely kept. You can see the buildings there and the trees and everything. Um, I really like the reflection of the clouds in the water. The only thing that is kind of throwing me off is the fact that the actual clouds, I think, are starting to clip on the high side. I might be tempted to try and get throw a graduated filter on there and see if you could bring the exposure down a little bit on the sky to get some of those details back in the clouds. You obviously know that there's details there because you can see them in the reflections nicely, but just the actual ones are just a little just outside of the of being overexposed, and hopefully there'd be enough detail there that you can bring it back and kind of get the details like you see in the reflection. But other than that, I think it works well. But also looking at this, I'm almost wondering if this wasn't shot square, what this would look like as a pano. Because if you got enough detail on either side, it might make a real nice pano too.
Yeah, yeah, it could make a really nice panel. This is very nice, very beautiful shot as well. So Cyberdoc did say it was overexposed for sure, and that was the first thing I noticed as well, as the clouds clipping out. So I absolutely agree with you on that. And if those were able to be brought back in, that would be great. But outside of the clouds, I really like the way the shoreline winds and kind of helps you wander through the image. This whole photo feels like very leisurely and very calming, and I really, really like that. Because it gives me a serenity that I'm quite enjoying just looking at it. This is nitpicky, which we do sometimes. I would probably hit the little barrel thing and that sign and this little gable, whatever purpose those serve, and take them out of there, because
Yeah, I didn't mind them myself. I thought they
okay.
added to it, but
Interesting. So
yeah,
this
yeah.
this is pretty clearly a man-made body of water. But that being said, like to me, those are the only like sort of quote unquote human elements that I'm seeing like real obviously in the frame. and that's why I'd probably take them out, because they're just enough to sort of disturb the serenity that I'm feeling when I look at the photo here. The other thing I wanted to note is the balance of the composition. This is a situation where people would easily be tempted to put that dividing line of the shoreline like smack in the middle of the frame. And the fact that it's up, it's not on a third, which I think is the right choice. It's not in the middle either, but it is up, creating an imbalance to the symmetry. And that imbalance pleases my brain, at least, because with the way the shoreline winds and the way I kind of wander through clouds and everything else, it just feels, the balance feels right. Whereas I think if it were in the middle, it would feel too static, and it would upset the balance of this photo otherwise. So
yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Like I think if it was me, I probably would have gone for the middle. So
yeah, which, fair enough. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing,
yeah,
and it can work. It's always, these are always, when we talk about these things, of course, these are always guidelines and ideas for you to remember and implement when they work for you.
yeah, exactly. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, Cyberdoc says, thank you for mentioning that about the symmetry. Christopher, dude, it's been a while. How you been?
Hey, Christopher.
Yeah, and Cochise, I've seen you in the chat. Haven't said hello earlier, so hello, Cochise, and Sandy is in here as well. And I know your name, but the Korean, I think it's the Korean characters throwing me off, and I'm so sorry. But hello, and Jason 2M as well. Hello, everybody who's joined.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next photo. Ashley, thank you, Ashley. I feel like such a terrible person when I can't remember names.
I'm terrible with names, so I just openly admit it and roll with it.
All right, this is Sandy Gedry's photo, and right, yeah, Sandy Gedry's. And Sandy said, "My cat sat still long enough for me to get this picture. I like that the focus is on her eyes, taken with a 24mm lens, f2.8, 1/60th, and ISO 1600."
Yeah, this is cool. The eyes just draw you right in, and what I like about it too is I don't remember. Oh, the other photo, the black and white portrait, where I commented about the one eye being out of focus and the one in focus, and I didn't mind it. This is a case where, because of the way you're being looked at, I'm glad both eyes are in focus. And with such a shallow depth of field, getting both eyes in focus like that can be tricky. So that's well captured there, getting both those eyes in focus, and with the shallow depth of field, that's all you can look at, is just keep looking at those eyes and getting drawn in. Again, I think this works well as a square crop too, because it's a nice tight crop, and the nice tight crop works well, and like the whiskers kind of going out as well too. It just kind of ties everything together. It's like the whiskers are acting as leading lines, bringing you into the face and into the eye, and also like the cat's eyebrows and just the fur in general just leads you right in. So I think it's a well executed shot. I really like it.
I do too. The eyes are so captivating. I mean, the texture and the detail on those eyes is really incredible. I mean, I can see the texture in there, which I think is fantastic. Super nitpicky. This little bit of fuzz for whatever it is that's a little bit blurry for whatever reason right there, I'd hit that with like a clone stamp or something. Again, super nitpicky. One of the things that I think works really well about this shot is the fact that it's sideways. Had it been like, and you could flip this, I don't know if you flipped it this way or if you shot it this way, were it so that the face was sort of oriented the way we expect faces to be oriented when we look at animals or at other human beings, I don't think this would be as powerful for a couple of reasons. I think it would feel a little bit like the cat was looking down, and I think that would be a little bit too normal for us as far as our brains go, seeing it in that angle. So I think she was on her side. I think your choice to shoot it like that and frame it like this works really well, Sandy, and I love it because it really is captivating. That depth of field,
captivating.
Yeah, it's captivating. I mean, the eyes are the star here. The whiskers add some really fun interest, though, and then the shallow depth of field in the background. And Minisla mentioned how the colors of the kitty's fur divide the face and also serve as a way to divide the shot, just adding some more interest to the image. So very nicely done, Sandy. I really like this. I think it's a beautiful shot.
It reminds me of a Star Trek episode, the original series,
Oh
where
yeah.
the one guy had blackface on one side and white on the other side, and then the other guy was white on the opposite side, and it was it's kind of what reminds me of the different
Okay.
colors on the cat's face like that.
I don't think I ever saw that episode. I wasn't an original series watcher though.
Ah,
I watched The Next Generation. I've seen a few episodes of the original series, but no lie, when I was a kid, I didn't like it. I don't
right.
know. It just didn't grab me.
It was
Nothing.
too cheesy for you.
What was it? Yeah, it was. It was
Too
too cheesy
cheesy,
for me. That
yeah.
was part of it. Yeah. Cyberdoc remembers that Star Trek.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, this is Thrasos. And I'm looking in the chat to see if there's any information on this one. I don't see any info on this one. So if this is your photo, please claim the shot in the chat. Share your information. And the same with the next photo, too. So the last two photos we have here don't have any actual information shared. So if you want to share your information, please do so. Being this is the last show for the foreseeable future, we'll go ahead and we'll share a few comments on these, even though we don't have any info. So why don't you go ahead, Mark?
You're doing the bird one first.
Yeah, we'll do the bird one first.
Okay. Well, I guess they're both birds technically.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the bird shot that I think we're both looking at is the
Peacock?
yeah, peacock. I was going to say flamingo, but it's not a flamingo because it's the wrong color. But I love the details in this guy. I love the crown on him and the feathers and everything, and just the way he's standing. And similar to the other the deer or moose or whatever that critter was.
Mm-hmm.
I like the amount of space that you have here at his head. It's not too tight, so I think that works well. Based on the fact that this guy has a band on his leg, I'd say this was shot at a zoo, but the shallow depth of field works well enough that you don't know it's a zoo. Like basically, if it wasn't for that band on the leg, this could be taken out in the wild and nobody would know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos for that. It's just for fun. It probably wouldn't even be a bad idea to maybe even clone that band out just so it does look even a little bit more natural than it already does.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a minor thing. It's something that you could do if you wanted to, but you wouldn't really have to. But yeah, I think it's a great capture. I love the framing. I love this rock that he's standing on. Just everything works well with this.
Yep, I agree. So this is Jason 2M's photo, and this is really excellent. So this was shot with the EOS RP, the Canon, with the Tamron 150 to 600 millimeter lens, zoom to 300 millimeters, and he says it was a zoo safari challenge. I think the execution is fantastic as well. That depth of field really helps make the shot because the bird is so separated from the background, and in a similar fashion to the way the elk looks so majestic and so austere. This peacock, has the same sort of feeling to it. Now, we were talking about the elk and how walking up that slope helped make that image work so well. And I talked about how if the elk were on a flatter plane, it wouldn't work. So now here we have a peacock on a flat plane, but the shape of the bird's body has this upward shape moving up at an angle. So it counteracts the fact that the plane is flat. Whereas with the elk is going to be flatter. It's going to have like a straight back on a plane. And so that's why I like the way this works here, even though it's on a flat plane as far as the base that it's sitting on. This is really beautiful. I think, like you said, Mark, the way it's framed, like just that tiny bit of space at the back end so none of the tail feathers are cut off, enough at the front end of the frame that you can see out into the space and you can feel the movement, the potentiality the bird has.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is really fantastic. I agree. Like, if you wanted to, Jason 2M, it probably wouldn't take much at all to grab a chunk of the leg from above and move it down and just get rid of the collar, the tag. But I mean, it doesn't wreck the image by any
No,
stretch of the
not at all.
imagination. Yeah, you can most certainly leave it there, and it has, no detriment in my opinion. It certainly points out that this was a captive bird, but there's nothing wrong with shooting a captive bird. It's a beautiful photo,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of that. I think it's really wonderfully done.
Yep.
He added this was shot at f6.3 and 1250 for ISO. So yeah, very nicely done,
Yep.
Jason 2M.
Definitely.
Beautiful work here. Beautiful work. All right, so this is our last shot, and again, we don't have any information. So if this photo does belong to you, please go ahead and share your info. Here we go. This is Ashley's. Fantastic. Okay. You were just waiting for that. That's fantastic. So that's my photo I took at Barry Island Beach in Cardiff on my Fujifilm X-T30 with the XF 18 to 55 millimeter f2.8 to 4 lens. That's a great lens, by the way. There were some wonderful clouds in the sky, and the seagull happened to pass right through them. This was shot at f5 with a shutter speed of 1/4000th of a second and ISO 640 with the lens zoomed to 55 millimeters. All right, go for it.
55 millimeters, that bird must have been pretty close, so that's good. But I definitely think the bird being there works, because I think without the bird being there, not that it would be a bad picture, but because you got all the drama and the clouds and everything, but it just adds that little bit to it that just gives it that more interest. Like the fact that the bird's sort of in the middle between the lower cloud and the upper cloud, and it's like you couldn't have timed that any better if you wanted to. The only thing that I might be tempted to do is try and bringing out some of the shadows on the bird, just so you can get a little bit more detail, because it's borderline being a silhouette but not quite a silhouette. So I might be tempted to see if you can kind of fill that in, just so you can see the bird a little bit better. But other than that, I think it works well. The fact that the bird's in the middle doesn't bother me at all, just because of how it's framed and how everything just all works and is tied together. So I like it. I think it works well.
Yeah, it's almost as if the clouds opened up to let the bird fly through. So it again has that majesty as well. So I think that works really well. I also like the contrast between the clouds. So first of all, you have some really great layering here. I do see the alien Cyberdoc. You have some really great layering here, right? You have the clouds, then you have the band of sky, you have the bird in that band, then you have the clouds up above. But then you also have the richly detailed texture of the lower bank of clouds, and then the more amorphous, slightly less detailed upper bank of clouds. So that adds some different contrast to the image that I like as well. So framing wise, the bird is smack in the middle there. I'd probably prefer it off just a little bit, left or right, probably off to the left to give it that room, and to the right to fly out. It still works in the middle because you have the shape of the clouds, you have that gap, and you have the bird flying in that direction. So it still adds that energy. But I think it would work a little bit better if you shifted that crop so that the bird was a little bit more off to the left, giving it a little bit more room on the right side of the frame. And the other thing I would add is agreement with what you said, Mark, in trying to lift the shadows in the bird and bring some of the detail out. To see, like, you can see some of the detail, right? You can see the pin. Is it pin feathers? Is that what they're called? The feathers in the wing on this right side. You can certainly see some of the detail there already. You can see some of the detail on the head. You can actually see the eyes and the beak. So just pulling up those shadows a little bit more, and trying to reveal some of the details on the underside there, I think would just make this even have a better overall impact, because as Mark said, this is falling a little bit more towards a silhouette. Now, had you metered off the bird, you'd lose your background there, right? Like, it would probably blow out, and you don't want that either. So I think you made the right exposure choice overall. But if you have that as a raw and you want to play with it a little bit more, if you could bring more detail out in the bird, I think that would make this already already a great shot, make it even better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful work, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
I don't see the alien, even though people say there's an alien there.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing it in the clouds. It's a little bit indistinct, but I see some faces and whatnot. So Vicky asked how we met. I think, which is funny because like neither one of us are Twitter users, but I think it actually started on Twitter, and then
No, I think it was on YouTube. I think I just started
on
commenting
YouTube.
on your
Okay.
videos.
Okay. Yeah. It was on the internet. It was because of my YouTube videos, one way or the other.
Yeah,
And we started chatting and became friends
yeah.
and doing this together and everything. So
And technically, we haven't actually really met in real
right.
life either.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were hoping that we'd be able to meet this year because this is your year to go to Photo Plus Expo New York.
Yeah.
But Photo Plus Expo cut their whole educational side. And as a result, I probably, in fact, most likely won't be going because
Yeah.
if I
That
could go, yeah, exactly. So bad timing on that part. But so yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. I want to for those of you who have joined late, I did announce this earlier, so I'll just announce it again so that everybody knows. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last Photo Blab for the foreseeable future. And again, I'm not going to beat this horse to death, but it's principally because I need to take more time working on the back end business things that go along with what I do so that I can continue to keep this going rather than having to shut it down. Now, with that, I'm going to be moving my Friday edit stream to Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. Yeah, edit stream. So you're welcome to come and join me on those Monday streams and hang out. And I am still going to be making YouTube videos, so you, of course, can keep watching my YouTube videos. And I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm sure Mark's always happy to answer questions as well. So if you guys want to reach out to us on Facebook, email, YouTube, like wherever we are, yeah, feel free to do that. And certainly going to miss you guys and seeing your photos. But hopefully, if things go well, we can maybe bring this back sometime in the future. We're not putting this as a permanent shutdown, but we're not putting any kind of a comeback date either on this.
Right. Maybe in 10 years we'll have like a reunion show or something.
Photo Blab the reunion.
Yeah.
We'll all trot out our war stories. All right. Anything you want to add, Mark?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
All right. So what I am going to do is this Friday, I am going to do my regular editing stream. And then Mondays at 6, starting next week, the editing stream will be coming back here. On Monday nights. So I'm going to do it on Friday for those who don't catch this. And then that'll be the new streaming schedule. So I'll update my streaming schedule on my website and in my YouTube video descriptions as well. So you guys can find it there if you're ever curious. Thank you so much, everybody, for everything across all of the shows and just being wonderful people and everything else. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, let's all go streaking in Vegas in 10 years, Coach Cheesehart says. I'm in for that. That's the right place to do that too.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas gets posted on YouTube, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. What am I supposed to do with my time? Manisla says. Sorry. Yeah. Oh God. Now I'm starting to feel bad. I know. This is the part that sucks. Sucks. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Keep in mind, I will share this. Keep in mind, and I actually do want to do this more. It's not the same as this, but we do have the Facebook group where we do have challenges going on, and it's a place where all of us hang out. Now, I know not everybody here uses Facebook. I know CyberDoc, you're not a Facebook guy, and I totally get that and respect that. But if you are interested, if you are a Facebook user and you still want to hang out, share photos, and chat, you can do so at this link right here. And Mark and I are in that group. I've been terrible at actually participating in the group, so I'm trying to do better at that, though. So
I think I'm almost just as bad lately too, but
right.
But luckily it's a good group in there, so that it's pretty well, almost a well-oiled machine even without us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so with that, we're going to say good night and goodbye for now. Thank you so much, everybody, for everything.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.